Welcome everyone. This is Dan from Sports Main 2022. And this is my cousin Luke. We are here to give you a season preview of the 2025 NFL season. Are you ready for football, Luke?
I absolutely am.
Let's start with who we think will win each NFL division and who we think will make the playoffs.
Okay.
You can go first, Luke.
Okay. Well, maybe the first division that we can start with, maybe let's do the NFC North. So I think, to be honest, this is really one of the most intriguing ones to me this season. So, the Bears, the Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers. So really, I think one of the most intriguing ones because obviously the Lions, I think are going to be a really great team again this year. And, we're really seeing some, big investment from the Bears to really try and be competitive in that league or in that division. But the Packers and the Vikings are also not very poor teams, so it's kind of a real I think it'll be a slam fest of a division with four pretty good teams. So I think that maybe we'll start off there. And I think obviously still I think the favorite has to be the Lions. I mean I think they really have the talent. Didn't lose a ton from their team the past year. That really was really one of the most exciting teams in the NFL. I think they obviously still have to be the favorites, but I think this is one of the toughest divisions in the NFL this year. I don't know. You think the same, Daniel, or maybe who do you think's going to win this division?
Um, I think it's gonna be a two-way battle between the Lions and Bears. I'm gonna say this about the Bears though, like they are probably a sneaky good team this year under new head coach Ben Johnson. And Caleb Williams, I can see Ben Johnson just elevate him and elevate his game. And I really like the Lions as well. Speaking of the Lions, they don't just have a duo, they now have a trio. Because you don't just have Amon St. Brown, you don't just have Jameson Williams. They now have the rookie they just drafted out of Arkansas, Isaac Tesbar, who is a monster. So,
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think the Bears have really invested heavily. It's just, if you trust in Caleb Williams. So, hopefully, that they're obviously betting in, his year two jump, trying to get him some offensive line help with Tooney, from the Chiefs and, Luther Burden, who I think could be a really great receiver for them, really a kind of a steal at the spot they got him. So, yeah, no, I'd agree. Both of those teams are really intriguing. And, obviously you can't count out Jordan Love and the Packers. I mean, I think they could really surprise some teams. But now maybe moving ahead to maybe let's do the NFC East. So this is one, the Giants, the Eagles, they're not the Redskins, the Commanders, and the Cowboys. So I think in this division, I think probably the clear favorite. Still remains the Eagles, but the Commanders could also, I think, maybe make a run at it. We saw, they showed really some flashes with Daniels that they could, maybe make a run for this division. It's very hard though to pick just against the consistency that the Eagles have been. They've been such a great team for so long. They still have that great offensive line, great defensive line that I think really will carry them this year, and that's why I still got to pick the Eagles. But I don't know. What's your thoughts?
um, my thoughts, well, I'm going off the limb here. Like, I say Commanders win their division.
Okay.
It, mo- well, mostly because they're gonna be a fun team to watch this next year, especially when they just statutorily signed, extended
Hmm.
Terry Taylor McLaurin just today, and I just think the Commanders are just gonna be full on ready for the challenge. Basically, they picked up really, I believe they picked up Von Miller and Bobby Wagner too.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
saw the extension for McLaurin. I saw it was pretty big dollars. Do you think that that'll be worth it for them?
I think it's probably gonna be worth it because he he's just crazy. He's just a really good receiver, and Eagles. Hmm. Should have them winning it, but I wanted the Commanders too.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Eagles probably second
Okay.
because even though they're a really, really good team, I would like the Eagles with Saquon to K-State, as they say. But I just I like what the okay. I'm going bold. Eagles will. I'm sorry, Eagles fans. You're gonna hate me for this, but I am taking the Eagles down from 2 and bring up the Giants.
Wow, that would be a big shocker. The Cowboys going to finish last in the division.
That's not thinking about that. About the Cowboys. They don't have Michael Parsons locked in yet, but I can see them competing to win it.
Okay.
So I just see a full-on battle for the number one spot. Even
Okay.
though I think it's probably gonna become the Eagles or Commanders.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it'll be interesting. And now maybe moving on to the NFC South. So the Panthers, the Buccaneers, the Saints, and the Falcons. I think probably the favorites, probably either the Buccaneers or the Falcons, but maybe I'll maybe go with the flyer here and pick the Panthers. I think really I saw flashes from Bryce Young at the end of last year, that I think he's really kind of turning the corner. I think we'll see. They I believe got McMillan in the draft and some new talent, hopefully around Young. And I think, like I said, he really showed some flashes of his Alabama days that I think this kind of a wide open division. Maybe a little bit of surprise. I'll go with the Panthers.
Honestly, everyone in the division is great team. I'm gonna go with real quick the Commanders. Well, Commanders, I mean the Panthers. That my
Okay.
bad. I'm going with the
Okay.
Panthers. Obvious, gotta go with the Panthers. I think huge, huge, huge Carolina Panthers fan, and I'd say like I like Bryce Young. He just needs to not become the rookie Bryce Young, but the Alabama Bryce Young for me to trust him a little bit more.
Sure.
He, but the crazy thing is they have this one McMillan now.
Hmm.
He's a big wide receiver that can elevate Bryce Young, and I can see the Alabama version of Bryce Young coming back, possibly. You have Adam Thielen. You have Tedward McMillan.
Hmm.
You have Leggett. This is just in backfield. You got Trev Etienne, Miles Sanders. I just
Hmm.
see the Panthers just it's just a fun team to watch next year. With
Sure.
the additions they gave, not just Bryce Young, but the entire team as a whole.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think interesting that we kind of agreed on that, but I think it'll be a really open division. So then maybe the NFC West. So the Cardinals, the Seahawks, 49ers, and the Rams. So I think this one it's hard to pick against the 49ers. I think they have a ton of talent. They really have the roster for it. But this will be, I can't remember exactly. I know the extension for Purdy was signed. I can't remember exactly if it's this year or the next year, really, when his cap hit, really substantially increases, and that will maybe hit the 49ers. So I think I maybe have to go with them for one more year. I think the Rams will be pretty competitive. Hopefully can maybe push them. We'll see. Cardinals having some young players, really trying to make a push, and who knows on Seattle. But I'll still have to go with the 49ers here and say that I think the Rams will make a push, but the 49ers just crazy last year, just with tons of injuries, tons of just lots of externalities. But I think it's hard to pick against them. But what about you?
Obviously, as a Seattle Seahawks fan, I'm gonna pick the Seahawks to win it all. But
Okay.
realistically, I can see the Rams winning it
Yeah.
because they added one of the greatest receivers to play the game of football in Davante Adams.
Yeah.
Not to mention former Ram, Cooper Kupp is now a Seahawk, and he, I'd say a two-way battle mostly for the NFC West, but I could see the Cardinals being a sleeper here in the NFC West.
Okay. You a Kyler fan? I'm joking.
Back when
No,
back when he's healthy.
he's had some good games in the NFL, but just hasn't had the consistency or really the lived up to the early draft pick. But we'll see.
I
And
just
then oh yeah, go ahead.
I just hope they don't get a football selection again. It's hard for me to say that because I like Kyler Murray. Fun player. But I say Kyler is the guy for now. And as a team, as a full team, I'd say they need to get more protection for Kyler.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need him hurt again.
Yeah.
That's just if you're gonna let your quarterback get sacked and his name is Kyler Murray, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. Well, now Daniel, maybe we've done the NFC, so now moving on kind of to the AFC, which I'll say a little bit more personal interest for me, and I think maybe a little bit more, to be honest, a little bit more exciting side. Really, the most exciting kind of quarterbacks in the league, mostly being on that AFC side, and really, I think a competitive conference. So maybe the first one, so the AFC North, so the Ravens, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Steelers. So for me, man, I really could have taken a flyer and picked the Bengals until I saw the last two games. Just that offensive line is just still so poor. I think Joe Burrow is an incredibly talented quarterback, extending Jamar Chase, keeping T. Higgins, just all the weapons that they have. I would just so love to take a flyer on the Bengals, just given some of the potential that they have. I think Joe Burrow is kind of probably the favorite to win the MVP, probably should be the favorite to win the MVP this year. So I'd really love to pick the Bengals, but the Ravens are too, again, I think they're kind of like the 49ers or the Ravens are just too tough of a team. If the Bengals did not have kind of that really glaring weakness of the offensive line and really a kind of mediocre defense, I'd love to take a flyer on them because I think they have, some of the most exciting weapons really in the NFL on the offensive side, but it's just, kind of the consistency and the, kind of the weaknesses that I think teams in the NFL can take advantage of is why, it's maybe the, consensus pick, but the Ravens are a tough team. But who are you thinking?
I obviously I'm gonna go to Ravens as well, mostly because Lamar Jackson's a guy. He is crazy good, and I like watching Lamar Jackson play. And they just have, and they added LaJohntay Webster from Colorado, and I'm very excited about.
Mm-hmm.
In the return game, I'm just so excited to watch that Raven team. And
Sure.
Okay. About the Bengals.
Sure.
This is my gut feeling. Remember when they went and went to the playoff, went to the Super Bowl against the Rams?
Yep.
Every single time they've been to the Super Bowl. That was the Super Bowl they've been to, and every single time it was the one you wonder. And if the Bengals do not have an awesome team this year, that they must have had another one. They would probably have 1 year once again. So I don't want it to happen, but my gut feeling it probably could have just happened. So it's hard for me to say because they have a very fun quarterback, very fun receivers, and a good edge rusher in Trey Hendrickson. And I'd say Browns of Ollie go to the playoffs with Joe Flacco at the helm. Once
Wow.
again.
Okay. So you're picking them second in the division?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, trusting the vet. Just trusting the experience, I guess. But yeah, interesting. You kind of talked a lot on Lamar. I kind of talked on Joe Burrow. But yeah, interesting that, two of the probably the leading MVP candidates in that same division. So yeah, we'll see. Should be a really exciting division. And then, I mean, we haven't even talked about Aaron Rodgers, in
Speaking
that
of Aaron
division.
Rodgers,
So yeah.
I'm actually like, no. I'm no longer picking the Ravens to win that division. I'm picking the Steelers. They
Oh
deserve it.
man. Okay. So that's a big shift up. So you're a believer in Rodgers.
I am because I want Aaron Rodgers to get his final Lombardi before retirement. This is his
Yeah.
last season.
Yeah. Possible. I think this year, maybe, maybe one more after this, but yeah, it's definitely possible that this is the last year. So we'll see. They've always had the defense. It's just, yeah, if they can get the consistency at the quarterback, we'll see if the Steelers can make a run. But yeah. Go ahead.
The reason why I say that is because this is gonna be his last year.
Okay. He hasn't announced that, has he?
I think he signed a 1 year deal with the Steelers.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say, that it's probably just because that's what they wanted. But he might just be a 1 year, or he might, try and do a second year. I think is kind of what the talk has been. But yeah, it'll be exciting to see. I mean, I think probably his second year depends on how well he does this year. So there's definitely some pressure on him.
So Ravens probably second for me.
Okay. Cool. Well, now maybe moving to the AFC East. So the Bills, the Patriots, the Jets, and the Dolphins. And I mean, I think this one is clear. I mean, I think clearly the Bills. I think the Dolphins too inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get. The injuries are also an issue. Hopefully that won't be an issue this year. And I think again, I think Josh Allen is an incredibly talented quarterback. I think the Bills really had a lot of momentum. It seems like every year they have a lot of momentum going into the playoffs or the end of the season, and lose to the Chiefs, and then kind of the cycle restarts again. But I think they're still a really great and talented team, and really tough to pick against them. And maybe second, I'll even go with the Patriots. I think Jets might have a little bit of a fall off, and the Dolphins, again, just the inconsistencies, and the Patriots really solid defense, and hopefully some improvement from Drake May and the offense a little bit in his second year. And so I'll maybe go with the Patriots second. But who is it for you?
Oh man. I'm gonna say this first. You realize who's the offensive coordinator for the Patriots again? Josh McDaniels. The last time they had him as the coordinator, they were trying to see what's going on. And I'm now scared that Dale Dominici might be returning with him as offensive coordinator. So my biggest fear is him taking over the NFL once again. If my biggest fear comes true, I'm gonna say this. Good luck to the Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel led Patriots. That's my biggest fear, but I don't see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, I'm gonna pick the Bills to win the AFC East. Josh Allen is way too good to not pick against.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. They're tough to pick against. They're a very solid team, a incredible regular season team, which is, why the lack of, late postseason games has been pretty surprising. But yeah, now maybe moving on to the AFC South. So again, kind of a really open division. The Texans, the Jaguars, the Titans, and the Colts. So for me, I think probably actually go maybe with the Jaguars. I think they've, again had interesting, that first round pick with Hunter, but I think Trevor Lawrence really has to take a step forward. And I think they have a lot of weapons. I think they've really been a solid team, and just had some injuries, had some inconsistencies. And again, I think a really wide open division. We'll see how the Titans are, with Cam Ward. And the Colts, who knows with Daniel Jones, Richardson, a little bit of just a lot of some quarterback instability. Obviously not with the Texans, but again some injuries last year that really hurt the Texans. So we'll see if they're able to fully rebound from that and get all of their guys back and healthy. So I'll go with the Jaguars.
Honestly, I'd love to go to Jaguars here. But Colts, I'm gonna pick to win this division with Indiana Jones at the helm. What people wonder who's that Indiana Jones? That his name is Daniel Jones, everyone. The last time he was in those stripes was back when he was at Duke. And I can see a big resurgence for Daniel Jones in the Colts, especially with new tight end Tyler Warren. Come on now, can't get wrong with the Colts win that division. And I say the Titans are in second with K. Moore at quarterback, and then third Jaguars, all three making it to the playoffs.
Wow, that would be shocking. Three teams, you're calling it three teams from the AFC South, make the playoffs?
Yes.
Wow, that would be shocking. That's Daniel's bold prediction.
Just wait for the AFC West.
All right, you heard it here first. And maybe moving on to the last division, and I think maybe one that we're a little bit, we'll admit, personally biased in, but the AFC West. So the Chiefs, Broncos, the Chargers, and the Raiders. So I don't know. Let's maybe go on three. The team that we're gonna pick, Daniel. 1, 2, 3. Chiefs.
The Chiefs.
Well, all right, we got that over with. So, but I guess maybe the reason for me is, other than being a little bit personally biased, I think this will be an interesting year. I think the Broncos have a really solid defense. Bo Nix and some weapons. Again, trying to make that year two jump. I think will be really interesting. The Chargers, with Harbaugh coming in, some of the changes. Hopefully Herbert healthy and some weapons. And then the Raiders, with the new quarterback, new head coach, just Genty, a lot of changes. I think it'll be a division with a lot of changes, but I think a division with a lot of changes and one constant, which is the Chiefs winning. But again, I think the Chiefs obviously are still a very talented team. It'll be really tough to beat this year. With Patrick Mahomes at the head, hard to beat. What are you thinking, Daniel?
When in the division before the AFC West, I gave you a teaser. I said just before the AFC West because I say this is the most scariest division in all NFL this season. I think all of the AFC West could make it to the playoffs. I'm not taking that lightly because obviously you have the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, Andy Reid, but people are forgetting the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert, Matt McConkey, Keenan Allen, and Keandre Lambert-Smith, Raiders with Geno Smith, Ashton Jeanty, Trey Tucker, Amari Cooper. Yes, he's back in this division. The Broncos with Sean Payton, Bo Nix, Carlton Sutton, and that freak defensive line that could. I'm just saying this hardly because, and loudly because, this division is a scary division. I can see all of the teams make it to the playoffs. One of these teams will win the Super Bowl this year.
Wow. Okay.
I am going bold because this is it. This is a do or die year for the Chiefs. If they want to stop the Patriots from reclaiming their throne, if they want to keep the Eagles away from winning 2 straight Super Bowls, this is their chance. Yeah. But I think this, honestly, if I'm being realistic, I've been saying this all offseason. I'm okay if the Chiefs lose in the playoffs. I wanted the Chiefs to at least make the playoffs. And I think they're likely to. Because only if Dynasty may have came to an end, it may still continue. I want it to continue, but I just want to make the playoffs. I don't care if we lose. I care that we make the playoffs.
All right. That's still going with the Chiefs though.
I still want to see to win the Super Bowl though.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, well maybe before we wrap it up, maybe one other thing we could predict, Daniel, maybe would be the MVP and then maybe the Rookie of the Year. I think those are kind of too fun, to see maybe the top player and then maybe a new young exciting player. So maybe I'll let you go first. Maybe who do you have for your MVP of this year?
Oh man, MVP. Man, we've seen a lot of great quarterbacks that have won. But my pick for MVP is Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. Nothing that I either.
All right,
Pick
say that
him.
again. Say it again. What I guess what's your reasoning?
The reason why is kickers all people do. Kickers all weapons too. Seriously.
All right. Well, for mine, who I'm thinking about. You brought up quarterback play. I was maybe thinking going more along that line, but I think I kind of maybe alluded to it as the favorite. But I think it's hard to pick against Joe Burrow. I think he'll be very motivated. Seeking a lot of revenge for kind of how the last season ended. I think this might be a year where he maybe even breaks the NFL record for total yards. Maybe not making that prediction, but I think he has a pretty good chance potentially this year. And I think if he does that, it'll be pretty hard for people to vote against him for MVP. So I might have to go with Joe Burrow. And then for the Rookie of the Year, I mean, probably obviously the betting favorite will be Cam Ward. It'll be really hard probably to bet against him or Genty. Obviously are both very talented players. But maybe the one I'll have to go with, and I think it's again because I think the Panthers will take a big step forward. But I'm thinking McMillan, and not just kind of because you're a fan, Daniel. I think he's really impressive. Watching him through college, I think he's really stepping into a pretty good quarterback position with Bryce Young really coming into his own. I think he, has a really, really great opportunity to kind of step in and make a lot of early contributions to their offense. So I'll maybe go with McMillan. And who would be your pick, Daniel, for Rookie of the Year?
Oh man, you mentioned Taylor McMillan. I would love a Taylor McMillan offensive rookie of the year. Honestly, yes, yes, I want it to be Taylor McMillan, but I'm predicting it to be Jalen Milroe of the
Oh,
Seahawks,
okay.
who I still think is QB1 in Seattle.
Over Darnold?
Yes, because
Okay.
I can see the Russell Wilson story happening all over again, like I mentioned in the draft preview.
Yeah, he's a very dynamic player. I'll tell you, I watched him live at the LSU Bama game this past year, and he absolutely destroyed LSU. Incredibly dynamic. When he can really get that dual threat ability going, I think it's not a bad pick. I think he's a very very high potential quarterback, and has the opportunity to do something in the NFL. So yeah, that would be very exciting.
I I'd say second probably Desmond McMillan for me.
Sure. Yeah. No, both good picks.
How
I
about
think
defensively?
defensively, man, it's tough to think. I don't know. Do you have anybody hot, like first on your mind?
I honestly, being biased, I think it's probably next Gordon, maybe.
Okay.
But obviously, the big name that everyone's probably talking about for.
Right, Abdul Carter.
Not, yes, Abdul Thunder or Travis Hunter.
Yeah. No, I would say he's probably the favorite. I think he, comes into a pretty solid defensive line. Just a freak athlete again. Watching him at Penn State, I think you could tell he was the best player on the field. I mean, I think he was a pretty cocky guy, and didn't mind saying that. But I think a lot of the games you'd watch, he was the best player on the field. So that's probably the betting favorite. But I don't know anybody who's kind of a dark horse or somebody you're thinking, Daniel.
Um, probably next Gordon, even though he's right now hurt,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd say probably it's Gordon. Okay. We're getting someone who plays for the Browns. Miles Graham.
Okay, big believer in the defensive line.
Yes. We need to give that defensive line very love.
Yeah, no, he I think has a chance to really make an impact for them. So yeah, really exciting picks. Well, Daniel, I had a lot of fun, kind of going through the divisions and talking a little bit about the MVP and Rookie of the Year and giving a little bit of a preview. I know you'll probably be doing a few more videos before the start of the season, doing some previews of the NFL, maybe some college highlights. But I'll pass it over to you, maybe to wrap it up.
Who's ready for the third ball?
Woo!
We will, and we're gonna peace out.
See y'all.